Welcome everyone to the Island Life podcast, where we journey onto the island of discovery to relive some of the best and worst moments of Survivor. My name is Will, an experienced Survivor fan, 48 seasons deep, and I'll be your guide. And joining us on this special two-person adventure is our Survivor newbie, the brand new Survivor fan who just finished his 5th season of the show. I give you Survivor F.
What's going on, everyone? Survivor F here. Happy to be here, Will.
Happy to have you for this episode of season 49 as we are on our way. The conclusion I was getting is like we're driving to discover what the storyline of the season is. And obviously the closer to get to the end, the closer that becomes known. So I before I give my overall impressions of the episode, it's time to break some ice. My question for you is, have you ever had this moment in your own life where you just feel like, I can't keep getting away with this, can I? Like a stretch of time where inexplicably things are just going your way and you're like, well, I guess I'm just that guy.
Ooh, I like that question. It actually, this is going to be funny because it just reminds me of, just back in the old Survivor F days, I had a period of time where it felt like food I would be ordering. Like you're going to a place where there's a ticketing system and the food that you're ordering, half the time they're not even charging you. And it would happen often enough to me to the point where it's like, is this a coincidence? Is there something like a pattern I'm not noticing? Like what exactly is going on? So that was definitely one of those moments where I would just laugh about it thinking back to it, where it's like, I could have mentioned something. I'm pretty sure on some occasions I did mention something, but it's like, if I didn't say anything, how long would that have gone on for? Right? It's not necessarily something that happens every time, but it would happen enough to me. Like it would happen frequently enough where you're starting to identify a pattern.
So you're gonna have to elaborate because are you telling me you just walk into McDonald's and they just hand you a coffee and then send you on your way?
Not not McDonald's. Like, let's say you went to a university somewhere, right? The university gives you food. You go to a place that might have a ticketing system, right? Rather than
Uh-huh.
just like paying right away, like you get your food order, you get a ticket for it. A lot of the times, I didn't have to pay. Like whenever my name gets called out, like I'm just there, grab the food. They're just not charging, and that would happen on numerous occasions. So that's one of the things that's, like, the first thing that popped into my mind when you said that, but
so so you just
the
went
instance
around
you're describing the
yeah.
instance you're describing for something like McDonald's, I've had things which I'm sure most of us have, where they get your order wrong or they upsize you. That also happens from time to time.
It's wild. So basically you're just stealing from the education system.
Not I wouldn't say the education system, more like these restaurants, the
What
restaurants that get
you
funded
gave
to
me?
be
I
there,
don't
so, yeah, food
fair
chains,
enough, fair enough. Uh, I
happily.
I think I think,
But just for legal
the
reasons, involuntarily. I don't condone that sort of thing.
condone. Survivor F encourages everyone to steal whenever they have the chance.
I
You heard it
encourage
here
everyone
first.
to survive and fend for themselves, as a good survivor does.
Touche. The most I ever felt this way that I'm describing is gonna be way back 7th grade when in my elementary school, things usually went my way. I was pretty good, not ashamed to say. But I there's we would have these multiple choice quizzes that are only 5 questions long. And to think about it, that means you get 1 wrong, you're down to an 80. You get 2 wrong, it's an F, it's a 60. So if you think about it, you need to get 4 or more right. and
Right.
I think I got like 3 wrong one time, and for me, at that time of my life, unheard of. That doesn't happen to your experienced Survivor fan. And then the teacher comes this was a substitute well, yeah, I think it was a substitute teacher, I forget. Or no, it was a teacher that took over for another teacher who was dismissed. Might got arrested, not sure exactly what happened. So it's a permanent teacher, but they're filling it. And this teacher comes over, it's like, "Oh, well, like, you must have, like, not been feeling well or something. If you want, you could, like, retake it tomorrow morning." And I was like, "Okay." Like, little little Will's like, "This is normal, sure." But, like, when I do that, it's the same quiz that was handed back to me that showed what the answers were. So, of course, I get 5 out of 5 right. And in reflection, I'm like, "Wow, even when I fail, literally fail, it turns around to a success
You
somehow."
succeed.
It was amazing.
Failure equals success. So you were talking to
Uh,
me about cheating the school system. This is very much a
okay.
direct cheating the
Okay,
school
but
system.
okay, yes, I realize how this has come around to me now, but it was not instigated, by me. This was just the hands of fate decided,
Right, right.
that I had to
Let's go
succeed.
with that.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah, but that's a good question. I like it. I like how we both had things that we probably came up with pretty quick on that one.
well, and I bring this all up because, all of us watching this episode, I think, kinda felt a little bit like, how can you let Rizzo keep on getting away with this? So let's just start here. Did Rizzo have to go? If you had the power, if you were playing in this season and you had the power to snap your fingers and make any plan succeed, would that plan involve voting Rizzo out?
I'm pretty biased in I'm supporting his group, but if I wasn't, and if I'm just even taking an unbiased approach, absolutely. He's a person who has a position of power in the sense that he has an advantage. You know, he has an idol that everyone knows about. And I don't know if everyone's comfortable with that knowledge that, okay, I know about it. So maybe that's also causing them to hesitate a little bit more. I know one of the things that I brought up during the watch along was, they might be more concerned about people that are unpredictable. And to them, they're probably seeing Rizzo could be pretty predictable. Like we know where the advantage lies. We know that who he's likely aligned with. So rather than work on eliminating him right away, if, there's a big enough argument that could be made for someone else, we can essentially sway the vote elsewhere. We don't necessarily have to vote Rizzo. Is that something I personally would do? No, I would definitely want to try to, at the very least, scare Rizzo enough where he feels the need to bait out that idol. And if I don't, I feel like I'll have failed for like we're looking at it in episode blocks, but like, if I'm an actual survivor, I'm not thinking episode to episode. But I would be thinking, okay, for today's tribal, I would have failed if I didn't get Rizzo to get rid of his idol because you're the jury vote. We're building a bigger jury, and we're getting to like the final five, final four. We're approaching the end, and this person still has his idol. So I believe, from what I recall, he has up until like the final five to use it if past seasons or anything to go by. So it's making it easier and easier for him to survive in the sense that he's gonna have to think about it less, right? Like, as he approaches that final 5 vote, he knows when exactly he'll need to play it, if he even has to play it at all. Like, there's less and less opportunities, and I think just to make matters worse for him, or for everyone else, this did not affect not only him negatively, but, like, any of the people who were with him negatively. None of his group got harmed at any point in this episode. So I think that was most surprising to me. What about you?
Well, here's the thing. Right now, Rizzo and Savannah clearly are looked as allies, okay. most of the other people went into this episode believing that they were part of the everybody else. Like Alex, Jawan, Christina, Sage, and Steven for sure. That's 5 people with Sophie as the maybe because Sophie is feeling um kind of left out. And I think if I was part of that majority, I would look at Savannah and Rizzo and say, well, there's only 2 of them. What have they done? And Rizzo seemingly hasn't done resume things I'm worried about him bringing up at the jury. Savannah has won challenges, though she's also come off as quote a mean girl to a bunch of people. Um, then again, she also talks lots of strategy. I think I would I would want to target them, keep our big group. But then let someone who's not part of my core, like let's say I have a number 1 ally, let's one of them drop, it's fine. Like I'm not worried about it.
Right.
All that's a roundabout way of saying at in the moment, I think I wouldn't be stressed about getting them out,
Mhm.
though they would be my target if if that idle play happens and the backup goes, like, yeah, okay, it's fine. Like I wouldn't be worried. And that is what they did, but I still have some criticism, funny enough. But despite them essentially doing exactly well, I guess they did in reverse because they didn't make like Rizzo the majority vote. It was Alex the majority vote. But yeah,
Yeah.
I wonder there's another part of this too.
Right.
I don't know that they all believe this, but it's a point that's brought up by the rest of them. Knowing where the idol is, knowing that it's Rizzo, does allow you to whenever you think about who you're gonna vote out, you get to think, is there a threat that Rizzo would use the idol to protect that person? And you put that in your calculations. If if Rizzo doesn't have the idol and now it's somewhere, well, suddenly the idol could happen at any point. It's hard to calculate for that. So I do understand what they're saying. I'm a little skeptical if that's what they really believe, but on face value, I think that does make sense. There is an advantage to knowing for sure who has the item.
Right. Yeah, and just to kind of look at it from another angle, my goal in this episode would have been not even necessarily to get Rizzo out, but just to lose the idol. I don't want someone else to have the advantage because even taking that group out of the equation, Soph, Savannah, and Rizzo,
Uh-huh.
the other folks are trying to get into their own smaller groups. They are collectively working together, and we're led to believe that yes, Rizzo is potentially the main target. If not him, it's Savannah. And that's essentially everyone outside of Soph who wants that in some way, shape, or form. But the problem is that, like, they're not as close to each other as we're led to believe. In Steven's case, he lost one of his allies in MC in the previous vote. And I don't know how close he is to Christina. And judging by how early in the episode he goes and reveals to Sage that she has the idol, it looks like he's trying to create additional bonds. He might not be sure of the ones that he has, or clearly they don't have enough voting power with just those 2 alone. And they're just he's just trying to make do with what he can, and he feels that with the bottoms up tribe that he has with Jawan and Sage, he's trying to trust in those 2. I don't know how much trust he would get back from them. Sage does make it clear that her number 1 is Jawan, so at least those 2 are also tight. But the thing to
Mhm.
know here is that, like, we have these smaller groups. It's not like that there's truly the 5 or 6 people outside of the 3 that I just mentioned, Savannah, Soph, and Rizzo. who are just working together. It's more that they just want to get this one person out as a vote. So if it's me, right, like I'm thinking the benefit to baiting it out or even potentially targeting Rizzo is even if he does not use it, that could work to your benefit in that now it opens up an idol that someone else could have access to later in the game. That someone else could be me, right? And what we're worried about with the uncertainty of these idols and why, as you're saying, there's a benefit to knowing that Rizzo has it. What's even better than that? You yourself having it,
It's fair.
right?
That's a
Because
fair counterpoint. Yep.
you know when you're gonna play it, you know when you're gonna use it. You don't have any doubts with anything. You don't have to rely on any trust or building relationships or anything like that. You're in full control. So I think there's a benefit to be had to getting rid of Rizzo. I do agree with you. I don't think they should be the top priority. I was mentioning that in the previous episode as well. I think that he should be one of the targets definitely within the next episode or two, but he doesn't necessarily need to be the priority here just because there could potentially be a bigger fish to fry. But, it's if he ended up getting eliminated, I would see it as another like that would have been a smart decision regardless to me because you get rid of someone who's in a position of power. If in the off chance he himself wins a challenge, he doesn't even have to think about using it. He just survives. Right? For everyone else, they have to win the challenge to get protection. For him, he already has protection. If he wins a challenge, he gets an added layer of protection on top of the one that he can bank away at a later date. So I, my thoughts were, if you're getting rid of someone else, get rid of someone else in a position of power. Is it Sophie? I don't know. I wouldn't be so quick to say that just because, I feel like people jumped the gun there that like she really just won one challenge. She has been competitive, but she does seem like she's not really in a position of power, like, even within her own tribe. So, I wouldn't be too concerned about her. I would be, looking at potentially what's Juwan and Sage are brewing and trying to see, like, how are they playing the game, but this is just me as taking a step back and assessing everything as it is. If I'm not
Sure.
looking to
Yeah.
get out someone like Sage, I think Sage could be a big disruptor here. She would potentially be my number one priority. Then I think for me, Rizzo is a good enough second.
Yeah. I think I've had more time to listening to your takes and thinking about it. Uh, the your target really needs to be uh people who are not interested in working with you, and then after you filter by that, those people in the strongest enemy alliances. And I think Rizzo and Savannah have just been observed to be extremely bonded. Like they are clearly working together. And so the longer both of them stay in the game, that's like two votes that are always swinging and potentially swinging against you. Um, so and as I think they are the most publicly aligned. I think that helps explain why that's just another reason to target them. Um, so
Yeah,
therefore, using the omnipotence of being the audience and we're watching the show, Joanne and Sage should also be targets right now because they are also maybe the only other group actively working together. Um, and I think they haven't hidden it, but I guess I think they're just not taken seriously, to be honest. Like maybe maybe people thought that they were the bottom of Hina because when they flip at the merge, they end up joining up with all the Hina people. So and Alex, I think so. They look like they're just extra people tacked on. But now, more and more episodes have happened, and like I said, like there's no other really tight alliances, including the original tribal alliance of Hina. So at this point, they should be considered dangerous. Now, eventually, you also factor in someone who is dangerous at final tribal. And if you're not taking Joanna's state seriously, I guess you're not worried about it. Like I can beat the final tribal, but um that's just some observations I had there. I also wanted to bring up what you mentioned about Sophie. So we off the pod and on the pod, I think criticized such an infatuation with the threat that is Sophie. And we were like, why would they think that? She only won one challenge. But you know what? Mea culpa here. She still only won one challenge, but she has been a finalist for every individual challenge so far. Uh,
As a
it
as
does
a great
seem like she's a
I was just gonna
challenge
quickly
beast.
say, as a great man once said, "If you ain't first, you're last."
Your
So,
first, your last. Well,
even if she's a
I
f
understand that.
yeah, even if she's a finalist, you're not getting any points for being a finalist, and I think up until she's actually winning these, like, you can't consider someone a threat if, okay, they're number 2, number 3 in every challenge, but they just have not won a challenge, right? You're able to just eliminate them whenever you want, up until the bigger threat is taken out of the game. In this case, it's Savannah. Savannah's the one outdoing her.
Yeah, which I guess, like, in this case, we couldn't target. So, like, that's fine, like, Savannah could be your number 1 target then, but when Savannah is safe, then that means the next you're like, you have to deal with what you got, so I can't go for
Yeah.
Savannah, I go for Sophie. I just think the more Sophie does in challenges right now, the more justified I think people's initial reactions. Because you'll notice in this episode, some people kind of changed their tune on Sophie, where I think it was like Alex commenting that if she was so surprised that she was a target, maybe she isn't like this big strategic threat at all. And at that point, it's only being worried about her in challenges. Now, she still ended up being talked about as a potential target, but I think that's just like you're scared to bring up a name, so you just default to what the old name was, so you go up Sophie, but in the end, she wasn't, uh, one of the people, although someone could have easily accidentally written her name down when voted for Soph, so that,
Yeah, I think the
could
one of
happen.
the things that I do appreciate about this season of Survivor is it's kinda hard to determine where we go from here, right? Like, it's not there is power between some groups, but it doesn't seem like there's a group that just stands above the others. Now, like, don't get me wrong, like, I understand that, Rizzo has the idol, the immunity idol. I understand that the person he's partnered with, Savannah, also has an advantage where she has an extra vote. And I understand that they're also working with Soph, who has another advantage. I forget the name of that one, but essentially the three of them together.
The mighty knowledge is power advantage.
Yes, that's the one. So those three are working together. Currently, they are not the majority, but they are getting close enough to being the majority. But I think at this point in the middle of the season that we're in, it honestly can go in any direction. And I think this is kind of what's exciting, right? We can see their entire plan falter, and Rizzo's the next one gone, does not get to use his idol, or he uses his idol, protect someone else, and ends up getting eliminated, or Savannah goes and he loses essentially a lifeline there. So it just takes one of them to go to kind of flip it back in like a more dangerous position for them. I think with the end of this episode, they're looking pretty good right now. But that can easily go away if one of them gets eliminated, even if Soph gets eliminated. So
It
it's
was so important for one of them to win immunity. And I
yeah,
said it in the episode,
yeah.
that just gives them all this power, and it kinda played out the way I thought. Because Savannah wins immunity, now Rizzo is a public idol, so everyone's factoring it in, and they're thinking, "Well, his ally is already safe, which means now if he wants to guarantee they make it, he could use the idol on himself, and then we can't get either of them out." And so since he might do that, people so far in this season have been scared off by that, and it would turn out they're scared off again by the threat. Not necessarily him threatening he's gonna do it, but just the idea in people's head without him saying anything
Mhm.
that he might. But if Savannah had not won, then they're like, okay, he has an idol, but he only has one. So he can't protect both of them.
Yeah.
And then they probably would have done their original idea of the split vote at that point. So I do wonder if next week they neither of them wins immunity, now what's gonna happen? I do think I have an idea for you of the neither what's gonna happen, but the story of the season. Because this is what I've been waiting for. Give me a storyline for the season, and I really struggled to find that storyline from the first swap
Mhm.
when Matt went home and then Jason and really until right now. And right now we have a cool battle. I think it's the bottoms up alliance, which originally I had my doubts because I also didn't take Joanna Sage seriously. And then Steven, I did, but Steven had MC. So I was doubting Steven's commitment to the bottoms up alliance. But MC's gone. So I think he's committed. So I think we have the bottoms up alliance versus Rizzo, Savannah, and Soph. Soph, who's gone from a anyone but me attitude, I think, at first, to kind of genuinely wanting her three-person alliance here to succeed. So I think we got 3 versus 3, and then Christina and Sophie are stuck in the middle, but
Mhm.
also not aligned. So they're both individual free agents. Um, so
That's
I
right.
think that's what's on the board right now, and I want to see how it all shakes out.
Yeah, it's exciting. This is like this is the aspect of Survivor I like, right? Like, when we talk about unpredictable in the sense that, like, yeah, we don't know how the storyline's gonna go, but, like, there's something exciting in that it could go one of 2 directions, and it honestly even could be a 50-50. It's not even like it's like a 60-40. It genuinely could go either way. And I like how you broke it down because I'm even taking it a step further and considering how those 2 would kind of break out, and, you could make the case that Christina could even end up joining Steven and his group. They have leverage in terms of knowing that she has an idol, but then on top of that, she helped out Jawan and, they might have a closeness due to that where Jawan might be, like, showing her that, like, "Yeah, like, thank you so much for your genuine, uh, looking out for me, and, I would love for you to join our group," and, she'll feel good about it that, like, it seems genuine because I did something for him, so he might feel inclined to helping me. And just so the viewers are aware, during the challenge in this episode, they had the first challenge, they had an opportunity. It was just a food challenge, right? And it was made clear to the
The
audience.
reward was a food,
Yes, it was made clear
fried
to
chicken.
the audience that, man, I could go for some fried chicken right now. It was made clear to the audience that, Jawan is really hungry, but then not only that, but he's, like, doing stuff to still support others despite being hungry. He's not complaining, he has a good attitude about it, and other people were picking up on it and appreciative about that for him. So, that's one thing. They go through the challenge, are split up into 2 different groups, and Soph is the odd person out, but she does get to choose which group she wants to be a part of. Either she can go with
S-
Savannah, I'm trying to remember. It's Savannah,
Uh,
Jawan no,
s-
so Savannah,
s- the
Alex. Do you have it pulled up? I'd have to pull it up. I'm
yes,
blanking on this for
yes.
some reason.
Okay, so uh, we have Alex, Savannah, Sophie, and Jawan are on one side, but Christina would end up flipping with Jawan. And on the other side is originally Christina, Steven, Rizzo, and who am I forgetting? And Sage.
Yeah. So
And
so the
in
highlight.
the end, Alex, the team of Alex, um, Christina, Savannah, and Sophie. I think I flipped Joanna and Christina there because it's weird because they flipped. But go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, eventually Alex's team ends up winning, and this is something honestly a welcome surprise. Another we get to see a human side of the players. Christina ends up feeling pretty bad because, like I said, they're all aware that Jawan needs some food. He's been kinda hungry, helping everyone out, and his team actually had the early lead, and you're led to believe that, okay, their team's gonna wrap this up. So Soph's essentially gonna get dragged to the winner's circle with them. But in the end, in the final piece of the puzzle, I'm very proud of Alex for proving me wrong here. I had mentioned earlier in the season that Alex is terrible at puzzles. Not really a puzzle here, but, I'll give him that as a puzzle. The final part of this challenge it's a sort of relay, but just to really summarize it, the final part of the challenge, once you get to the very end, is you have to actually throw 3 rings onto, like, a hoop, which you initially take them off the hoop, but I digress. Alex does it pretty quickly despite the other team having the lead. They have a pretty early lead, get the head start, but Alex is, like, very accurate in his throws and overcomes the other team, and more specifically, it's Rizzo and Jawan who are unable to get any of they get 1 ring, but they're unable to get 3 of their rings up back onto the pole, and, we have this little moment where, you know, we get to see Christina and some of her motherly instincts as she describes, where when she's asked about, "Why are you thinking about giving up this win?" She's considering, "Hey, like, Jawan looks like he's pretty done." She asks, can we actually see if I can swap places with Jawan?" Jawan having lost this challenge, Christina's essentially saying, "Can you can make it so that I've lost despite the fact that my team won, and give Jawan my spot." And I just thought that was beautiful. Like, that's one of those things which, puts a tear in your eye. You, like, have those manly tears, cry it out. But it's nice to know that, like, she's looking out for him despite the fact that she's competing against him. And this kinda leads to a question I have for you, Will, where I like the fact when Jeff is pretty flexible in terms of, like, the rules and whatnot, but what are your thoughts on it? Do you wish that Jeff would not allow this sort of thing? Do you feel like Jeff should be more harsh, more cutthroat? How do you feel like he should administer these rules?
Oh, I love rules being enforced. So I don't like if there's a established rule and it just gets changed to the whim. That being said, I can't prove that this was ever a rule either way. Like, it's just so rare for it to this things like this to come up. The closest thing is when someone wins an individual reward challenge and then they're picking
Yeah.
people, and every now and then maybe someone asks not to be chosen or wants to switch with somebody. Um, but it's pretty rare for someone on a team reward. Like, I'm pretty sure it can't happen in the tribal phase. Like, imagine Tribe A versus Tribe B in the pre-merge, and
Yeah.
Tribe A wins reward. You can't just have, like, one of the members swap because you'd be swapping tribes, like, that definitely can't happen.
Right.
So honestly, this might have been uncharted ground, and therefore Jeff's making a ruling in real time, and in
Mhm.
that case, I don't have a problem with it.
So let
However,
me
though
Yeah, go
sorry,
ahead.
I just wanna say this, Jeff explains this, though, with the air of, "Well, of course, if you wanna make a swap, it has to be an agreement between you and the other player since it's your reward that you won," and I'm like, "Jeff, you're talking like this is a well-established rule that we all should know. I don't think this has ever come
Yeah.
up. What are you talking about?"
Jeff playing mind games with everyone, as he does. And we're also reminded of the fact that earlier when he's talking about the fried chicken, all the food, fruit, whatnot, Jawan says, like, "Yeah, I don't wanna think about that, I'm just kinda tuning that out." And I made a joke, it was like, yeah, like, just watch Jeff, like, again mention it during the challenge, despite Jawan just making it clear that, like, "Yeah, I'm just trying to focus here without thinking about the food." And Jeff does exactly that. During the challenge, he again, like, reiterates, like, "Oh, these are all the foods you guys are competing for, the chicken, the vegetables, whatnot, the juice, like a fresh
And imagine all
cold
the times
glass
he
of, like,
said
iced
that,
tea
and
or
it just didn't
whatever."
make the edit too.
Yeah, yeah, so I love it. But let me take a step back for a second, back to that question. I think let's take a look at it as a whole, right? Like, if there's implied rules, right? Like, if you win a challenge, you are the winner. You're not gonna assume that you could just give the win to someone else just because you feel like it, right? So, think about it this way for a second. Let's say you're in a team with someone, right? You have immunity similar to how Rizzo has it right now, but in this case that no one knows that you have immunity. You're worried about someone that you're working with who is your number 1, could be a potential target. You win a challenge. You could ask Jeff, "Hey, can I just give my" this is gonna look really sus, so I understand that, but you could ask Jeff, "Okay, is it possible for me to give the necklace to my number 1?" Like, is that something where it's like, like, if you ask Jeff the question, even if it's something that hasn't been explained
Oh,
before,
are you
we wanna be
saying like
flexible with the rules.
are you
I'm just
saying
thinking
like in
along the lines
like
of
Savannah in this case actually won? She had the necklace. Are you saying like if Savannah wanted to give that to someone else?
yeah, would you enjoy a survivor that does that sort of thing? Like, it's possible this survivor does it, it's just never been brought up based on what I've seen, but
Ah,
do you want a
yes. Well, I can
hard-coded survivor where, like, even, like, implied rules as we understand them, even if they haven't been defined before, cannot be tampered with? Whoever is the winner, they can't give it away to anyone else. You can't share food, you can't do any of that.
um so so not exactly. I just I just need to know what the rule is. So the rule can be you are allowed to do that. Or it can be you're not, but it shouldn't just be like in baseball it's called umpire's judgment. I can't have Jeff making a judgment call every single time it happens and it could be one way in this season and a different way in another season. Like I just need to know the rule. And by the way, the that hypothetical Savannah just wants to give her necklace to somebody else.
Mhm.
Actually, that was a rule. Uh, and that was a stated rule that you can do that, but you wouldn't do it. You would do that at tribal council, like
Oh,
you would.
interesting.
I mean, I don't. Again, like the scenario where that would ever come up is beyond me. But in the oldest seasons, like kind of around the time like Pearl Islands when we watch Cook Islands, like that level of old season, Jeff asked at tribal council right before we go to vote. He asked, "F, I assume you want to keep the necklace. Is that true?" And the person would say yes. But eventually, like everyone said yes forever. So it's like, all right, why bother even asking it? But technically, if you wanted to, for some strange reason, you could just hand the necklace. But it's not like you're not using it like an immunity idol because it's before the votes.
Mhm.
So like imagine Savannah did that. Well, then I feel like everyone would just then vote for Savannah. It'd be terrible.
Yeah,
But
I
it's
know,
her choice.
and
She
it's
could do
just
that.
such an absurd hypothetical because if you think about it, like, couldn't you technically just use that for someone else too? I'm pretty sure that was one like, you don't even have to give it to them, you just use it for them.
Um, well, yeah, but it's still before the vote. So it's not
Yeah.
like standing up and saving somebody because we haven't voted yet. But I don't can the person refuse? Because right in this episode, Jeff says, "Joanne, it's up to you. You could refuse this," because
Mhm.
he didn't immediately accept. So could someone refuse to accept the immunity? I wonder.
And we'll have
'Cause
to
I
think about
think
that. But
because they can't refuse a hidden immunity. If Rizzo had stood up and said, "I'd like to play after the vote, I'd like to play this for Soph," Soph can't
yeah,
refuse that. So, but I don't know, it's interesting.
food for thought. But yeah, I got my answer. I understand you're more in terms of like what the actual rules are, as long as they're defined, those are good with me. I think some flexibility is cool, but it's like, yeah, it's a little weird when whatever you think is an implied thing, then Jeff comes out and says something completely different, which kind of like throws you off guard. I don't know how many seasons of Survivor I'll watch where I'll come away thinking, "Oh, I didn't know you could actually do that," but hopefully it's not the norm.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, again, I think this is like he's establishing the rule because I just don't know that this has come up before. So
Mhm.
so here I'm
Yeah.
fine with it. That's it. But if like next season the same scenario appears and suddenly it's different, then I'd be annoyed, right? Like it would be that'd be frustrating. Um, there's a couple of specific points to talk about this episode. So at the very beginning, it's the aftermath from the vote from last episode, and I think Sophie's stock uh, lowered quite a bit. The problem is she correctly reads that people would not have minded her going, but she's so overwhelmed and maybe even hurt a bit by that she kind of openly confronts everyone about it, and it's still, like, nighttime and no one really answers. She literally out loud is like, "Oh, so it sounds like you guys wouldn't have mind if I went home." And then, like, silence. Awkward silence.
Yeah, I mean, what can you even say to that, right? Because like,
Yeah.
even if you like, deny it, like, your actions show otherwise, so
Like, you just gotta start, like, a shouting match event. Like, you have to, like, not engage, so I think everyone played it correctly there.
yeah.
For Sophie, I mean, who do you think she reads, and again, I think her read's correct, that the people she thought were trusted allies are not. So, out of the people she could have gone to, did you like that she would end up going to Savannah and Co? Or is there, like, someone specific you would have wanted her to try to build a bond with?
It's, I mean, it's rough. So she went with the 2 other girls in the other tribe starting out, the
Mm.
Kaylee tribe and the Wooly tribe, so I think for her, it's more they don't know me as much as the others do. Maybe if I'm feeling hurt, maybe I'm feeling betrayed by people that I started this game with, like, Steve and Christina. Rather than confronting them about it, hearing what they have to say, it might give me a little bit more peace of mind if I talk it out with, like, the fellow girls over here who might not know me as well, where I can make a case and probably try to keep the heat off me, and I think that's the approach he was taking. I do see the sense in it. I think I don't know how much help it would be talking about it right then and there, because yeah, you like, there's only so much, like, you can repair the damage off something, and for her, like, she wasn't hurt too bad, because personally, I don't think she's as big of a threat as everyone else does, and we start to see that over the course of this episode. A lot of the heat is taken off her despite the fact that she, even in the challenges, is still competitive. So I think it's just part of it is she's just on edge that, like, we're past the midpoint, and I really just wanna make it to the end. I need to make sure that my name is not the next one up. I think for me, it's like, you gotta consider, like, what are the benefits of maybe being a little bit more passive, waiting and approaching people, maybe not right
S
away, and having, like, maybe one-on-one
s
conversations compared to, let me just put it out all in the open, following the vote, and then try to speak my mind to the girls, like, next thing in the morning. It worked out for her, so in hindsight, like, it's what she did ended up being, for now, the right move, but it does feel like she's on edge. That's the vibe I'm getting.
Yeah,
There is a
ideally,
weakness
she
that
would've
appears.
I agree. Ideally, she would have been able to keep it in that night and then, like, not reveal, like, or make a scene and reveal that she's hurt, and then the next day, kinda do exactly what she did, but now she's not obviously like, at this point, and her name does come up, like, as potentially, they don't go through with it, but, well, Sophie doesn't like us right now. I remember what I said part of your a very simple analysis who to target is someone who you don't think would work with you. So Sophie's making it evident that she doesn't want to work with all the people she thought she was with. So now she kind of has no choice. And the only question is how she's going to finesse it. And you're right, she goes to Savannah and to Soph. Um, so probably I think she made the best of a bad situation, and we'll see how that develops.
Yeah, yeah, just
Um,
like you said, I
the
think the ideal move for her could have been, like, as soon as the Kaylee tribe lost 4 of its members and it was just Alex and Soph, their approach just became, let's just diminish whatever threat that we appear as and just work with whichever majority will have us. I think that's the approach that Sophie needs to take right now. I'm like getting mixed up by the Sophie thing. That's the approach that Sophie needs to take right now, and just like she's clearly being seen as a threat. She needs to be able to inadvertently, like not potentially not through her words because they might not clearly like if she speaks out about it, they might think that like oh like she's obviously trying to get like the heat off her. Like they'll be less reluctant to see things her way if she speaks about it rather than maybe show them in a way that like, yeah, I'm not as strong as you think I am. I think that's what I would be thinking about during that night if I'm sleeping, if I'm Sophie. How do I come off as not that much of a threat?
Yeah, well, the one good way is to surround yourself by bigger threats. And clearly, people are fascinated with targeting Savannah and Rizzo. So if you are aligned with them, well, then they're going to target them too before they target you. So I think best move she could have made in this situation. Um,
And speaking of Rizzo, what an episode for Rizzo, right? Like following the challenge we were just talking about, where where Alex's tribe, Alex, Savannah, now Jawan, and Sage, I believe. Yeah,
uh, I'll tell you right now, as
just
I
grabbing
just
my
had it
4 tips.
pulled up
I don't know why this
in
one's
the
so hard to remember. It's like it's like out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. But
and
regardless,
literally
the
have it
point, the
playing.
names aren't
There it
important.
is.
The what I'm trying
Okay,
to say is
it's
like
Sophie, Joanne, Savannah, and Alex all 8 reward
Sophie.
together,
Yeah, Sophie was forgetting.
and the rest
Yeah.
and the rest of them are off, not doing that.
So following that challenge win, we get a sense that Rizzo does see Alex as a threat. And this is where, the episode starts to come together for Rizzo because his strategy becomes, hey, well, Alex is just playing the middle here, right? Like he could end up becoming this threat that no one sees and just stabs everyone in the back. Or because he's playing at both sides, he's putting himself in a position where he for sure is going to be like final three, final four. So what do we do about that right now? And that sets up a plan for him to start talking to everyone and start putting Alex's name out there. And for us, the viewers, we don't know if it's gonna be successful or not, and that's another that's why I like this episode because, like, they're throwing all these, like, little hints toward you as the viewer, but you don't necessarily know if they'll actually hit. They leave you wondering, and I just really liked the aftermath of the challenge here in this episode. I thought it was
Yeah,
nice
well,
to see.
a and a lot of the time, we see someone talk out what they're gonna do, and it's a setup for it to fail in terms of, like, a TV show. Like, they talk about it, this is what the plan's gonna be, and then the plan blows up in their face. So you don't know, are we getting that story, or are we actually getting, like, a success story? And you don't know until the end. So I am impressed by the execution, but it's more like results-oriented thinking because in the moment, I'm like, "Is this gonna work?" But then every confessional, it like Rizzo talks to Joanne, and then Joanne's like, "Wow, I mean, I don't know if I could trust Alex now." Talking to
Sowing the
Sage,
seeds of
talking
doubt. Yeah.
so like watching Rizzo go to work, like it doesn't feel like it's gonna work, but then immediately, like we at least in confessional sees that he's making them think at least, and I don't know if Rizzo he tells us that thing about he Alex is playing in the middle, so I can't have that basically. And I think there's truth to that, but I think it's also Occam's razor here.
Mhm.
Rizzo needs it to not be him. He needs to do that. You need to propose a target. Who's the
Yeah.
easiest person to be a target? Uh, and that answer is Alex because Alex, as far as we know, has no tight alliance with anybody. And therefore, if like let's say you're talking to Joanne, if you're gonna convince Joanne it's not me, you're not gonna convince him to vote for Steven. You're not gonna convince him to vote for Sage. So you don't want to tell him to vote for Soph. So at that point, it's either Sophie, Christina, or Alex. I think Christina's probably a bit of an unknown, so he doesn't know where to go there. Sophie might work, and Alex might work, and you do that calculus for the whole tribe. And I think when you're done doing the math, it turns out the easiest people for most of the remaining castaways is going to be Alex. And then it just comes to the execution of how to convince them. And hey, results matters. His execution was pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. And what really helped kind of set that vote up is the challenge. And I really like the immunity challenge here, where again, test of endurance, where you actually have this little like bullseye target, which looks to be pretty heavy, that each survivor has to essentially keep upright with their feet. Now, initially, in the first part of this challenge, they're allowed to use their arms to keep themselves upright or act as a sort of leverage, support themselves. But as they get further and further into the challenge, they have to stay upright just using their core and their legs, and they're not allowed to move their arms. So this is just looking at this looked like a very difficult challenge. And I got to commend the people who hung in tough there. This challenge was divided into, two different between the guys and girls. We had the opportunity for Jeff to give us two winners this time around. So I thought that this had the makings of a great challenge. I wish they had one more guy to even it out. It felt like the guys had less. So, you'd have a quick determination in terms of who's going to win. But, just the challenge itself was just like another one of those like challenges. What makes you like appreciate the things that are going on Survivor, where there's smack talk, there's distractions, people are holding on for half an hour plus. All those challenges, every time that pattern comes up, I always love those sorts of challenges. I loved it in season 48. Believe we had similar challenges like that, which met all the criteria I just listed in season 47 too. And it seems like
Do you
every
think
season has one challenge that's like that.
do you think you would thrive with someone rambling, or would you thrive in like total like silence and focus?
For the most part, I would survive. I would do better in total silence. It would help me focus. But I think if there's something where it's like I'm starting to feel pain, I think someone talking would be a good enough distraction, which would take my mind off of it. Right? I might start that emotion, the pain might be replaced by something else, annoyance. And that might push me to keep going. And it just depends on the type of person you are, right? And that's why that's a good question, right? Because your answer could be completely different from mine. I think for me, like in this specific sort of challenge, it would probably help me.
I'm worried that here, because I know like you're basically pushing forward with your leg muscles, and then what, at least the part when you were grabbing, like to keep yourself in the position, your core. Um, but you're also like, if you see, like you're pushing this disc kind of on a single ball point against the the I guess not the
Like a little
wall,
wedged
but
out pole.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that does feel like if I don't focus on what I'm doing, I'm gonna put the pressure too far on the left or the right of it, and then it's all gonna come apart. So
Mhm.
I would be worried about distractions for this one, I think, for me, because there's other endurance challenges where it's really like one focused action you're doing.
Right.
And so as like the one where you're just basically gripping with your hands and just preventing the spool of rope to unravel, like that, it's one thing. Keep your hands where they are. Then
Mhm.
I think I could the distraction could be good. Um,
Yeah. This
so
was,
let me see.
oh, go ahead.
I'm just seeing the last part. So we talked about Sophie dominating again, though not actually winning. Clutch win for Savannah. I think the story of the season would, I mean, it'd be different, maybe for better, maybe for worse. I don't know that Rizzo and Savannah could be surviving without one of them winning, which so far has been Savannah.
I
Um,
agree.
so so real clutch. We'll see how long they can keep that up. Um,
An impressive
and
showing
then
by Steven as well. Steven was the one we were just talking about distractions. Steven is the one actually distracting the rest of the tribe. partly because they asked for it, but him being a rocket scientist, I believe it was Savannah who asked them while they were all doing the challenge, "Could you give us some facts about space just to take our mind off of this?" And he goes on and on and on, and I don't know how long he's talking for, but it's like, he's not only holding it tight, he's also just distracting everyone else while maintaining his composure. Like,
I was
that is very
disappointed that
impressive.
Jeff ultimately cut him off. I think it's because he needed to announce the 10-minute mark to go to phase 2,
Mhm.
but he could've been like, "Alright, Steven, continue." He could like, after he's done with that, but,
Yeah.
that didn't seem to happen. So the last part that happens in the episode is that, um, so so a bunch of people had wanted to vote Savannah and then put a backup vote on Rizzo, but they can't do that anymore because Savannah's won. Um, Christina wants to risk it and still vote Rizzo anyway, predicting that his track record says he's not going to use it. And I think some people consider that they were potentially willing. But Rizzo has put in the work to have Alex's name on there, and Rizzo also has a three-person alliance, so he can say, "And we got 3 votes already." Because it's one thing if you're alone and you suggest to me to vote somebody out, I'm gonna be like, "Oh, how many people you got?" And you say nobody, well then I'm not gonna take you seriously. But he's got 3 votes right now, between them. And then Joanne. Here's the big moment, I think. Joanne goes to Alex. Joanne is semi-aligned with Alex, Alex is an enemy at the very least. So he decides to tell Alex that Rizzo's been saying his name and Rizzo's been making accusations about Alex, about him basically gossiping to people on all sides. Alex is trapped. And here's why. So now obviously he hears his information. He needs to defend himself. But to defend himself, he's gonna have to talk to the people he thought were his allies, which is a lot of them. There's probably like 5 other people. But it's getting close to tribal. He's gonna have to quickly go talk to Christina. And then when he's done with that, then go talk to Sage. And when he's done with that, go talk to Sophie. Him doing that is naturally gonna make him look the way that Rizzo said he looked. And then he's gonna have to like defend himself, like, "Oh no, Rizzo's lying. I never said that." Like, I don't know that Alex could have done anything different. And yeah, I think he seals his own fate here. I don't think it's a self-destruct because I think he was just trapped by this scheme that Rizzo constructed.
Yeah, like I said, very impressive showing from Rizzo this episode, even though he didn't win the challenges. He showed himself to be a puppet master here, and whatever he outlined, despite it not looking initially like it was gonna work, ended up working the way he wanted, and he got to retain his idol. And the interesting thing about Christina, despite her appearing to have the biggest conviction for voting out Rizzo, which initially I thought it was gonna be like Joanne or something, but anyways, it was Christina. She, ironically enough, does not even vote for Rizzo. She votes for Soph because, she's thinking
Yeah,
if he
yep.
actually does have the idol, like, that's the backup vote. So I just thought that was interesting that despite her having conviction of that and, he didn't use his idol, like, she didn't even bother voting for him. She voted for the backup.
Well, let me just break down. So when it was all said and done, Alex himself votes for Rizzo. So Alex believed it was gonna be blindside for Rizzo. Um, Joanne, Rizzo, Sage, Savannah, Soph, and Sophie. That's 6 people. They all vote for Alex. So they've all been convinced. And so Joanne goes with it, Sage goes with it, Sophie goes with it. They all vote for Alex. Then Christina and Steven vote for Soph. So either they were both under the impression that the original plan was happening, where all the votes were on Rizzo and then Soph was the backup, or they too were on board with the Alex and they were doing the backup. So Soph became the backup for Alex, not the backup for Rizzo. I kind of lean that way. Like I think consensus was reached that it was going to be Alex, and then they basically split between because you never know, maybe something weird happens. Alex has some crazy advantage. So
Yeah,
I
fair
think
enough.
we might find out next episode, but I think that's either way. I mean, both of those scenarios make sense. Um, and yeah, Alex goes home. Rizzo does not use his idol. No one else uses an idol or advantage. We lose Alex. So I think Alex he came a long way since his
That he did.
introduction,
Yeah.
his first couple episodes. But is that coming a long way enough for you to want to see him again?
No. No, I do have a high bar, and unfortunately, he did not meet it. He did turn things around, I will give him that. If you asked me this at the start of the season, or even, like, in the first 3, 4 episodes, it would have been a very easy no, but he did prove me wrong in terms of, losing his composure, just being terrible at puzzles. He did have some semblance of a strategy, and, it was interesting to watch him go to work, but unfortunately, as you said, I agree, I don't think this was a self-destruct. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time in this episode, and, his game kinda just did not he could not bail himself out.
Yeah, I don't need to see Alex again, but he did entertain me for several episodes. His ultimate problem was I think he was unable to persuade Soph to be in a tight alliance with him. Like I don't know they ever tried really doing that because once their whole tribe gets broken down, he never integrates himself into have a tight bond. Unlike Soph, who does do that eventually with Savannah, and by extension Rizzo, but it seemed like Soph and Savannah they have the close
Mhm.
bond.
Yeah,
And so he has no one to stick their neck out for him in this, and he goes home.
very good
So
observation.
uh,
Yeah,
that's the
and
end.
that leaves us as Soph being honestly, all of Jake's, hopes and dreams now lie with Soph, because if you remember, he wanted the original Kaylee 3 to make it to the end, but now the only one capable of doing so is Soph. So, can she win it all for Jake? We'll have to find out.
I'll have to find out. Speaking of winners, are you making any changes to your winners this
No,
week?
I'm not. This was a good week for me. I had doubts coming into it, but I am a ride or die. Stick with my picks.
Hadn't you already
And
changed the
both my
season?
picks ended up actually winning the challenge today, so feeling especially good.
That's true. I just like that you call yourself a ride or die, but you've already swapped once from Soph.
Have I? I feel like that was a different person back in the day. I mean, she's still into,
that
but and she's turned it
that
around
was
as well.
pre. That was in the sea snake era.
That
Who
was
remembers those
pre-merge.
days?
Yeah, that was pre-merge
Oh,
Survivor
pre-merge.
F. Different person.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Unfortunately, as people knows, if you tuned in last week, I failed to keep my pick safe and I lost already, so I've got no one left. But I will continue rooting against F and Ange's picks, so we can all be failures together.
All right, we'll
But
have to see. And
all right. Yep. Yep. Uh, final 8 next time. We'll see how the alliances shake out. F. Anything else before we go?
I'm just wondering when or if we'll ever see Christina's idol come into play, because she has one too, and for most of the episode, I just completely forgot about it.
Yeah, I'm a little worried because while heartfelt, be is like giving her spot up for Jawan, it did not seem to have any inkling of strategy. So and we haven't seen much other than focusing on targeting Savannah. I haven't seen another strategy, so I'm worried that she'll just never use it, or worse, tell even more people about it. But who knows? That is a wild card. Though. I'd say that's an X factor, as is Soph's knowledge is power, um, which at any moment could become the most powerful advantage in the game.
True.
Um, but yep, only time will tell. Thank you everyone for tuning in to this week's Island Life episode and tune in next time for season 49, episode 10, as we rapidly head to the home stretch. But until then, and until we speak again, ciao.